Hello, all of you beautiful people, and welcome back or welcome to the Voice of Reality podcast. Something a little bit different today, I know, but we are in season 2, episode 2 of our podcast, and we have a very fun and interesting guest today, someone who I am very familiar with, but you all are not. So today I want to introduce our guest, and that is Ben. Hello, Ben, and welcome. How are you feeling today?
Hi, I'm very excited,
Yeah.
very grateful to be here, so thank you.
You are very welcome. Obviously, I am very familiar with Ben. I know Ben, he is my partner, and we have been together for nearly 4 years now, but I know that you have so much to give and to share, and I feel like your journey is very it's a journey that a lot of people can take some advice from, can resonate with, and as well as that, I feel like you have a lot of expertise in the area as well. So that's something that I do want to delve into with you as well. So if you want to introduce yourself a little bit and just kind of your journey, your background, and how you got here.
So, how did we get here? So, I've obviously been always into sports. It's always been a big part of my life, from as long as I can remember. From a very young age, always done something to do with sports. Come about 14, I started doing a little bit of boxing, got really into that, and through that, I built up my confidence a little bit, and that led me to going to the gym because I wanted to improve kind of my physique and my strength for boxing side of things, and eventually over the years it just kind of took over, and then once I hit 18, I've really wanted to push that side of things and go all in with it. When it comes to obviously work and everything like that, and didn't really see anything else other than that for myself to do.
For college and stuff, like you were kind of like, right, now this is what I want.
Yeah, so just when it came to college, obviously I spent a lot of my time in skill training. Like I would train before skill, I would train after skill. Sometimes I'd leave skill to go training. And to be quite honest, I didn't do that great in skill. It wasn't the worst by any means, but for the courses that I wanted to do, I was way off in terms of points and everything like that. So PTing was the right option for me at the moment. And I've obviously seen PTs working out on the gym floor and thought it was a great thing, being able to obviously work with people and do what I love every single day.
And I love that you even said that with school and stuff, because I love the quote that's like, if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will think it's stupid forever, and it will think it's not good at something. And I think myself, I was the same. Like, well, I was okay in school, but I wasn't like the smartest in the classroom either, but I always knew I had so much to give. And I feel like you were like that as well. Like, you obviously were very passionate about the gym, and very passionate about training and everything like that. And it probably was hard thinking, okay, how do I make this a life? How do I bring that passion to life? What were kind of some courses you were looking into, or things that you would have probably liked to do? Or was it always PT, and was it always kind of going into the sector of like wanting to help people on the gym floor?
So off the top of my head, 2 courses that I do remember were the first one being sports science, and then the second was physiotherapy, which both of them being like you need a lot of points to get into them, and again, it just wasn't an option for me, or I would have had to do some other course to then be able to get into that, and it just didn't seem like a great option. I wanted to get in and work straight away. I didn't necessarily want to wait that long to then, only be able to do what I already would want to do, if that makes sense. That being helping people. So yeah, that was the main thing.
I think it's really nice as well to chat about that, because I think a lot of kids in school believe that they have to go to college. They have to get a certain amount of points to be successful. They have to do a college course to be successful and to get into certain areas or fields. But it just goes to show, like, you took a route that, yes, you didn't get all the points in the world. Maybe you aren't the smartest kid in the classroom, but you are happy doing what you're doing. You're very passionate about it. And you took a route that you didn't have to sit in college for 4 years to actually be successful.
Yeah, like even when you say that, I remember the last couple of months in school, and obviously a big part of it was looking up courses and going through all these different things with the teachers. And I remember sitting there just frustrated. I used to hate that time because I just knew I wasn't going that way. And I
Yeah.
remember just sitting there thinking, I am wasting my time here, and I could be out doing this, or I could be training, and I could be doing all
Making
these
money.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally. I was thinking of all these other things that I could be doing, rather than looking at these things that, for one, they didn't really excite me that much. To obviously then go through, different courses to be able to get to those. And again, I wasn't necessarily in a position to do so. And I remember it being a very kind of disheartening time,
Yeah.
because you're sitting there, everyone is talking about what they're going to do and whatnot, and having all these plans, where I didn't necessarily have a plan until literally finishing the last couple of weeks in school.
Yeah. And yeah, that's, as I said, it is very important for people to know that there is different paths you can take, and there's different routes you can go down. It's not all about the points and college courses. I think the world is coming around to that, though, and I do feel like even now, when I look at like my nieces and stuff growing up in the education system, like they're very aware, and my sisters make them aware, and obviously myself, that if you want to be more creative and you want to do different things that aren't just going to college, getting a 9 to 5, like you can. The world is definitely coming around to that. But I do think, and we had very different paths coming into the gym and being a PT, being coaches. But for yourself, it was very impressive that you were like, no, this is what I want, nothing else. And not even, as you said, because you weren't the smartest or anything like that, you were passionate about it. You knew that would drive you forward. And it's very impressive, because I know back then it must have been very hard, because everyone pressured you to obviously go to college. And I think back then no one knew how big the fitness industry was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a big part of it, obviously talking to my mum and whatnot, and her obviously wanting me to go to college,
Yeah.
and wanting me going through the kind of traditional route. But I was, you could say, I'm very strong-minded, in a sense where it wasn't an option for me. And I remember just saying it to her, no, I'm not doing it, it's not happening. And even like a couple of years later, she would send me courses that I could be doing, do you know, that
Yeah.
kind of way, where things with PT might have not been as good as they are now, let's say. So yeah, it was
Pressurizing.
yeah, it was. There was a lot of pressure, obviously. And again, when you're starting off as a PT and things aren't that great, because it's like, it's a job like any other, where, you're not just going to come into it and, well, at least 90% of people aren't going to come into it and just blow up day one. It's going to be very frustrating when you have people telling you, oh, maybe you should be doing this. Like, this is not really going to be a career at the end of the day. And thank God it is now.
I know, and even as you said there, you're very strong-minded, which I'm aware of. But it's a good thing. I do think a lot of time, and we will get into that like as well as we go, but a huge thing that we always say is that if your mindset isn't in the right place, and if you're not driving yourself forward with the decisions you make, you're never going to succeed and actually get to where you want to go. So you had that from the get-go, which is amazing. Obviously for myself, it was very different. Like, I went to college. I didn't give into the pressure. I do believe back then that is what I wanted. I think it's just all I knew. I went to college, I did the 3-year degree. Then I obviously went to Dubai afterwards, was there for 3 years. And it wasn't until then when I came home, and it was kind of like, okay, this is a weird transition period moving home now. What do I really want to do? That I've had that huge transition period of, actually, I don't want to go down the path of being a teacher and having this huge career and, being like, it's basically, the stability never drove me, I'll say. It was never like a value of mine to have this stable career. A value of mine was kind of the freedom. And I think this is, you probably know yourself, I do think like I'm a natural born leader, and having to take orders from other people was not a strong point of mine. And I always knew that. And I was like, hey, what do I do here with what I have, with what I'm good at, with my skills, to progress and make a job out of this, actually make money to be able to live off it. Obviously a driving force wasn't finance or money itself, but I do think, yourself, you have to be making money in order to live. So for me, it was actually probably about 6 years after school when I was like, shit, this is actually what I want to do. Let's just reroute really quickly, which was really, really hard. But again, I knew, like, in my heart of heart, that's what I wanted. And it took a while to get there, but I got there. And even in that, and like, I was 24 I was very strong-minded myself, and my mom and dad were even like, what on earth are you doing? Like, no way in hell are you giving up this career, like this like stability, like a good life, a job that you will have for years on end, a mortgage, a pension, all these things that they kept saying to me. And I was just like, yeah, I don't really mind giving that up. Do you know what I mean? I don't mind going down this route. This is what I'm really, really passionate about. And I do think the two of us had very similar kind of experiences with that, just at different times in our lives.
Yeah.
So chat to me about kind of younger Ben, and being on the gym floor at the start of your career, because for you, you were a lot younger than me, and times were very different when you first started.
Yeah, so yeah, when you say times were different, like I remember starting now in the gym. I don't even think I had Instagram. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even think I actually had my own even personal Instagram or anything like that. So that wasn't even a
Sorry,
thing.
what age were you when?
18. So I was 18, kind of going 19, as I first started PTing. And yeah, it was hard. It was definitely a hard transition because I went from obviously being in school, I had a little job in between just to tie me over while doing the course. And then obviously, as soon as the course was finished, I was saying to myself, right, I'll do this for a couple of more months until I build up a bit of a client base. And I'd say 2 weeks went by and I was like, no, I absolutely hate this. I can't do it anymore. And just went all in with PT. And it was hard because, again, I understand it now from a standpoint of, there was this 19-year-old kid with not much experience. Obviously, I had
Of
all the
course.
good intentions, and experience in terms of I've done quite well in terms of my own, progress with training and knew what I was doing. But I didn't have any clients to kind of back me up in terms
Yeah.
of, okay, this is what I can do for you. So it was hard. Like, it definitely took me, I would say, at least 2 years to start, making any kind of livable money from being a personal trainer. And it was it was definitely a very hard time. And again, I remember it being disheartened when people tell me, "Oh, maybe you should do this instead," or "Look, you tried, forget about it, just try something else." But again, I was like, "No, I'm going to make this work."
Yeah.
Like, I know if I continue kind of showing up, I'll continue improving on my side of things. It's bound to happen. Um, so yeah, the early days were very, very hard. But again, as the time came along, I started building up clients. The kind of word got around, obviously, in the gym itself. And it's like a snowball effect where, you get one person results, the people see it around the gym a whole lot more. And again, that kind of builds up. But while all of that was going on, I really focused on two things. First one being improving my own knowledge. That was
Yeah.
a huge thing for me. So I wanted to do as many courses as I can. I wanted to know as much as I can to, when people come to me, be able to give them as much as I can. And the second thing was I was actually watching. So I obviously had a lot of time on my hands with not having a lot of clients, but I would still spend, I would say, 8 hours in the gym every single day, just being around, wanting to be seen for one, but for two, watching people and watching the busy PTs and looking at like how do they operate, what do they do, not even in terms of the training, but how does the structure of the session look like? How do they meet their clients? How everything works, and I've seen the difference between, the lads, let's say, or the PTs that, are nowhere to be seen. Their client just strolls in and does their own thing at the start, and difference between the lads that are waiting at the door to meet their client. And there was small things that I was picking up, and I was like, okay, that's obviously I want to be the good PT, and obviously pick up these
Yeah.
small things that might not even be anything to do with actual training or nutrition side of things. So yeah, that was a big one, just watching people and
Knowledge.
picking up these small things that I wanted to obviously have as a PT myself.
Yeah. It's mad. I just think in this day and age, anyway, with Instagram being so big, all anyone sees is the glamorous side of things, is, oh, the traveling the world, or working from a laptop, or even being a PT and like having your own hours, which I'm like, I'm sorry, you do not have your own hours being a coach. Like, you are living on other people's time. But it's mad how you talk about the failures and the struggles, because no one sees that. Like, because no one, firstly, as you said, Instagram might not have been as popular, and social media itself, but even now, PTs coming up in the world, no one sees the struggle, because only everyone just sees your wins and sees when you actually are someone to be recognized and someone who is like doing well and getting results and having all these things coming through. So it's really nice for someone else to hear that, like, it took years to build. And even at that, I know personally, even now, both of us aren't where we want to be. Do you know what I mean? And yes, we are successful in certain ways, and we've gotten to places that we've always wanted to be at. But like, there's always things to grow on, and there's always things to develop with. So yeah, I think it's very important for anyone starting out on the PT floor or as an online coach, that like, it takes so much time and effort, so much consistency and hard work, and just mindset. Like, do you know what I mean? And being like passionate about it. Like, imagine you gave up after those 2 years. Like, as you said, it took 2 years to build a client base, and then even from there to develop that and to keep going. Like, imagine you given up, like, and you just went back to working a 9 to 5 or with the buses. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I know you were saying there that 2 huge things that really helped you was gaining knowledge and actually being in the gym, watching what successful people were doing. Is there anything else you would give younger you or a coach starting off a little bit of advice?
I would say those two are probably the most important things.
Yeah.
So do as many courses as you can.
I find it gas even when I remember that, like, you were a masseuse for a while, a sport,
Yeah.
like, you know, like, you really did go all in and say, right, what can I give here? What
Yeah.
can I learn? What can I do? And with that, yeah, obviously came all these courses on the side. So
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think people go the backwards way nowadays, where they look at the money, they want all these clients, they want all of these, the glamorous life of being
Yeah.
an online coach, rather than starting, okay, are you actually a decent coach? Where, again, I started with a PT course, went straight into a nutrition course after that. As soon as that was done, I went into doing it was like sports therapy, and kind of injury prevention, all that type of stuff, where again I got my sports massage kind of diploma, or whatever they're called. And yeah, there's so many kind of courses that I've done over time, then again doing more online courses. And I think it was about 3 or 4 years, probably about 3 years since doing my PT course, where I actually looked at, working with a business mentor, to actually, now put all of that knowledge and, build an actual business. So yeah, I would say number one is just learn as much as you can. Whatever you learn, put it in practice with the people that you have there. Like, you don't need 50 clients to be able to put in the knowledge to use. Do you know what I mean? Like, start with what you have and just put in 110% effort into that. Look at successful people in the industry, and take small things away from them. Don't just copy people for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Like, look at, a couple of things that they might be doing well.
Their cues, I think. Yeah.
How they carry themselves, all of those things. And obviously find someone that you kind of relate to and you would like to kind of your business to look like, in a sense. And yeah, lastly, just put it all together and be patient, because that's the biggest thing. Like, I've been in the fitness industry for 8 years now, and a good few of those years between building up a on the gym floor clientele and business, and then starting all over again, going online. There was years and years of, like, you could call it struggle in a sense, in terms of building a business, and it's not all pretty.
No, I think delayed gratification, even you just saying that, like, is something that no one in this world, like, actually allows themselves firstly to put into practice but understands. I think everyone wants the instant now, because that's all you see on Instagram. It's like, social media, all you see is the rise to the top. No one sees the bottom and the grit and the growing and everything else in between. So yeah, I do think that last one there is very important. Like the consistency of actually being patient is I would even say is number one. But I do think even I remember myself, and you always telling me too, how there was like, you would always be in the gym so people would know who you are. And I took that on board because obviously, as I said, like I came on to being a PT and on the gym floor a lot later, and there was things that you taught me so much about. And I remember like literally living in the gym that I worked in. Now I'm blessed that I was busy, but as well as that, even if I didn't have clients, I wouldn't just go home. I would be around the gym doing something, building a client base, just talking to people, getting to see where they're at and what they need help with, and then they would know who I am. They would recognize me. They would come to me. And I think I always remember you saying that, and I think that's a huge, just something so small yet beneficial. And I now, when I'm in gyms or if I'm somewhere where I know there's PTs working, you will see the PTs that are actually giving everything they can and they're around the gym all the time, and the ones that will go home and not care if they're around or not, or if people see their faces. And that does differentiate a lot of who's going to have the clients and who's not going to.
Yeah, 100%. Like the way I look at it is, if you're not already busy out the door, you cannot afford to go home. That's literally, even if you don't get paid, like you cannot afford to be sitting at home. That's literally the way I look at it, is like there's so many things that you could be doing that don't necessarily pay you instantly. You don't get the return there and then, but will pay you dividends down the line. So definitely that's a big one.
Oh, it's an investment. Like, I know it's your time, but it's an investment of your time, 100%. Okay, so yes, the gym floor was definitely a long period of your life. 5 years, am I correct?
4.5, about 5 years, yeah.
Even when we met, like I had started on the gym floor, you were there like literally 4.5, 5 years. And I obviously, that's all I kind of knew you from. Like we met in the gym. Now then kind of years went by before anything else. But like, I always just remember you being in the gym, and that's the Ben I knew. But then you obviously decided to take the leap to online. And I won't lie, I remember starting and being in a gym, and I was obsessed with being a coach just in general, because this is what I wanted. This was the fire in my belly and I loved it. And I remember you mentioning online to me, and I was kind of like, that's strange. Like I hadn't delved much into it or kind of knew a lot about it, but you obviously had friends and had a lot of people around that were kind of trickling into that sector. So you were coming into it a lot quicker than I even was. And I feel like it was you that kind of opened my mind to it and was kind of like, oh, interesting. Like what's this about? And obviously COVID as well. So for you, what was it that was like, I need to do this, and that leap into the online world?
So I would say being out on the gym floor for at least 4 years, coming into 5 years. Like by that time, I was quite busy. My diary was full every single week. For at least a year at that point, I was doing about 50 to 60 sessions a week. And it was great. It was an amazing time. Obviously being that busy, like that's what I've spent those years building up to. But then I've noticed that I didn't have time for anything else. So working 60 hours a week, out on the floor, I was tied down to that specific place, and whatever time I had. Now, I remember you said at the start with setting your own hours. I was waking up at 4:30 every single morning to make food for the day and get into the gym at 5:45. And again, didn't finish work until about 8 p.m. that night. Obviously, I'd have a break to go and do my own training and eat and shower and everything else. But like, it was a full day, every single day, Monday through to Friday, and then maybe a half day on a Saturday. And I was starting to dislike it for that reason, because I was not doing anything but working. For about a year, which at the time, the first 6 months, it was so exciting. I was so grateful for it. But then the next 6 months,
Burnout.
I started burning out, and I couldn't, let go of the times in a sense of I didn't want to work less, but at the same time I didn't have the time for anything else. So that's where the idea of, okay, maybe if I move the business online and again gain a little bit more freedom with where I am and everything else, it's going to make that difference. And obviously then COVID was obviously there. And as you know, we were already kind of seeing each other at the time. And my friend Mark invited me over to Spain.
Oh yeah, side note, we had just started seeing each other and Ben went to Spain for 4 weeks, which is probably the best thing that ever happened to us. But yes, off you popped.
Yeah. So yeah, no, Mark invited me over, went over to Spain, and he was already quite busy doing his thing and online. And just seeing what he was doing, how much more kind of freedom to his day there was. He dictated his whole day, and it was great. It looked unbelievable. It looked like a change in a sense. And obviously being in Spain, being able to do that, amazing. Like if I wanted to spend some time, I don't know, sitting in the sun or doing something a little bit different, unbelievable. So again, seeing that was like the last kind of straw in a sense, where I was like, as soon as I'm back home, like this is where my focus is going. And yeah, it wasn't then, I'd say about 6 months later, I was then transitioning online. So yeah, it was quick enough change. Once I made my mind, it was like, okay, this is it.
Yes, as you said, you're very headstrong, and I feel like once you have something in your head, like it's all guns blazing. But I do definitely understand. I think I even remember, as I said, all I knew was you in the gym, when we met each other and everything, and I could see that burnout because you were so busy. But it nearly felt like you outgrew the gym. As not that so, like, do you know what I mean? You kind of outgrew it. Like all you could give, you were already giving, like, and more. So it was nearly like, how do I continue to grow? And I do think that next step is online.
Yeah.
I
think, sorry to cut you off, but I think the excitement of it was gone.
Yeah.
Obviously, like
the spark.
The looking for growth in every aspect is a big thing for me. It's what gets me up in the morning, knowing that, okay, there's some targets to hit, there's some goals to tick off. And once I've grown and there was no more really room to progress in the gym, that's when I was like, you know what, like something is missing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do get that. And I feel even for myself, when I went online, it was a little bit different. I was on the gym floor for about a year and I loved it. I did. But I always felt like, always, I was quite busy from the get-go, but I do think that was because of my age and that I did have experience behind me as well. And I was in a gym that was a little bit smaller. So it was easier for me to build up a client base per se. But I do remember after about a year being like, what more can I do? There is so many more people I can help. Like I was literally just like this fire in my stomach that I was just like, how can I help more people? And I think that's why the online kind of spark for me was so big, because I was like, right, if I take this online, like there are like hundreds of people I can help instead of, you know, a handful throughout the week. And that was a huge thing for me. And I think the both of us could probably agree that I get messages every now and again of people asking, you know, what could I do, or how do I grow, or how could I transition online? And I know that this might be a hard pill to swallow, but I think you need to give the time to your one-to-one base and your actual gym floor base and build that up, build that knowledge up in order to actually kind of feel like you're ready to transition. I feel like the glamorous side of online drags everyone in and everyone forgets about the part of growing and actually having to put in the hard work. And we both know as well that when we both transitioned to online, you had to start from the bottom again. It literally nearly felt like you were starting all over again. So if you're starting from nothing already, it's going to be a lot harder. Like we already had a lot of experience, a lot of a base, clients built up, our names out there in some sort of way, results, progress, photos, testimonials, you know yourself, things that you could actually put up and use. And I think I always say to people, like, you need to build an actual base and you need to build progress and all of those things that you can use for yourself as well. And I think it was really, really hard. I think online was harder to build than face to face, to be honest. And I think when people ask, you know, what's the number one thing or what would be your tip, definitely like, you know, putting in the work before jumping online.
Yeah, 100%. Like I remember the day I decided that that was my last PT session. I think it was a Friday. By Monday, I already had 10 clients online with me, and they were all like, it was basically all of my PT clients that wanted to continue just going online, and whoever else didn't, I just basically gave it to someone else to work with on the gym floor. So that's definitely a huge one, and just being known as a PT, I think that's a big thing. Just even locally, even through your friends and people that might know them. Oh, Ben is a PT and he's doing things online, yada yada yada. Just being known as a PT, I think, is a big thing. And obviously the experience, as you said, like it's priceless. Where again, I think people come into it backwards nowadays when they just want, you know, all of these clients to begin with, where they don't have the knowledge to
handle the clients.
Handle is one thing, but actually knowing what to do with them. So you can have all the clients in the world, but if you don't know how to get an actual result, they'll be gone as quick as they come in. So I think that's a massive thing, and you learn things on the gym floor that you could never online, basically. And that you'll be able to use then for the rest of your career, basically.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think, as we said, like, patience is key. I think being patient and building up, like for me personally, and obviously we both moved to Dubai when we were ready to kind of take it very seriously and do the online. We were like, okay, right, let's just go. Let's move to Dubai straight away in January. We both moved online, and this whole new life, we were buzzing. Obviously, we fell absolutely on our faces, and that is fine because it led us here. But I always laugh, and I always think that we were just that naive, and we were not even naive. We were just very much so like blinded by what you see on social media, what all these successful people are doing, what you see in Dubai. And obviously we'd saved up a bit of money. We moved over. In 5 months, my savings were gone, and I was personally living off my savings and a bit of the income that I was getting in, because we both went online. For me, it was very hard to build that up again online and to build everything up the way I wanted to as well. And to be honest, I had no clue what I was doing. I had absolutely not a breeze of what I was doing. I was just hoping for the best. And I will put my hands up and say that I probably should have taken it more seriously. I should have also given more time to actually building a business and building, like, you know, the actual values that I wanted, instead of constantly posting on Instagram and TikTok. 100% I know that was something that took a lot of my time and headspace. And I don't think, for me personally, it was until we moved home from Dubai where I was like, shit. That just, like, we just failed at something, and we had to move home with our tails between our legs. And now it's time to reevaluate this and to really see if I want this and if I'm ready to drive this forward, or do I need to go back to the gym floor, or do I need to go back to teaching? And I will never forget sitting in my bedroom, sobbing my eyes out, of course, being like, no, this is what you've always wanted and you are good at it, but you need to actually get your head in it and make sure that this is something you're concentrating on. And I think from that June onwards was when everything turned around for me, because I was genuinely invested and ready to give every inch of my soul to the online itself. But I know that the both of us moved to Dubai with a lot of intentions and expectations. And what was that like for you, obviously?
So yeah, I've never even been anywhere outside of Europe before going to Dubai. So it was a crazy experience to begin with. But even before we left, now looking back, like, we did not have a plan for anything. Like we were, I remember when we were there for the first couple of days, and we had an apartment booked that got cancelled the night before. Yeah, there's just absolutely zero plan for anything that we were doing. We didn't have a clue what to expect in terms of living over there, never mind the business side of things, which actually took, I would say it actually took a dip because we went to Dubai in a sense, because a lot of people looked at it negatively. And yeah, that made things harder as well. But as you said, coming back then, as hard as it was being over there and failing so bad, it gave us a very different kind of perspective of, okay, like we have to do things differently. We have to have a different work rate. And I think being in Dubai, it allowed us to grow a little bit of like confidence. Maybe as much as we were failing, we were trying things out. And I think that was a very important thing as well that we came back home with, and that allowed us to then, really push ourselves and grow as much as we possibly could.
Yeah. Do you know what I think really happened to us there as well was I came from a small gym in Swords working, absolutely loved it, Integrity Gym. And I came out of there after having a full client base and wanting to start online. You came from a gym that you really enjoyed and you had a full client base and we're starting online. And we were like, oh my God, amazing. Everything's going to work out. Sure, we already had a full client base. We were some sort of top dogs in the gym we worked in. And now we're going to move over to Dubai and it's going to be great. But as soon as you enter Dubai, you realize that you are the smallest fish in the pond. Like, you are the smallest fish. There is so many people that are doing better than you, like, and more successful and doing things in different ways. And all of a sudden you realize that, okay, what I was doing was great, absolutely. But I need to level this shit up if I want to survive. Do you know what I mean? If I actually want to be who I say I'm going to be, if I want to be the version of myself that I say I'm going to be, that's not going to cut it. That version of me is not going to cut what I need to do here. And I think that was what really helped us to grow, because as much as we had to come home and yes, ultimately failed in a sense, I think we learned so much from it. Yeah. We learned so much from it. We learned what we needed to do. We learned who we needed to be, the people that we looked up to and we're like, okay, wow, these are the people that we are surrounded by now. Like, we need to level up as well. And I think if we didn't go, we'd never be where we are now.
100%. And I think, coming back from there, as I've said, it kind of gave us a bit of confidence in a sense. Being at home and doing things at home wasn't as scary.
No.
With, the likes of Instagram and posting whatever you want and really pushing yourself out there. I think that was the biggest difference coming back home.
Yeah, I think when you are surrounded by people that literally do not care, and that are doing what you want to do, and you see them and the attitude they have and the mindset they have, it rubs off on you.
Yes, and there's actually an interesting thing I've seen about business the other day, and it said a big part of growing your business is actually just outliving your competitors. And as much as we don't look at other people as competition, because we completely do our own thing, like, people give up because something happens. Do you know what I mean? Like, something doesn't work out, something might happen in their personal life, and all of a sudden the business goes on hold for 3 months, or I'll come back to it, or that type of attitude. Where a big thing for us has always been, like, regardless of what's going on, we're moving forward.
Yeah. And I think that is so true. Like, people can quit in any journey, like business, fitness journey, a career, family, relationships, anything. Something can get hard and people quit. And that's what we, like, personally, I always say, the number one rule to success is to not give up. Like, and that's what we always say to each other. Like, no matter what, and like, you could be having a bad day, I could be having a bad day, and we'll turn around and be like, yeah, but are you going to quit though? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, are you going to give up? Like, do you know, so what's the solution here? What are we going to do with this? And I just think that's so important, because if you want something enough, like, you will outlive every hard time. And the people that do quit, you will outlive them as well. Like, that's kind of what you're saying. Like, you will always kind of end up being successful in your own way, kind of getting through those harder times as well.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, obviously with that, and with yourself being my partner, I would love to chat about relationships. And I just think more so along the lines of how important they are in a journey when it comes to growing a business, when it comes to fitness, and trying to be somewhat successful, or just trying to be the best version of yourself in general. For me personally, I know people that one person in the relationship maybe works a 9 to 5 and the other is an online coach. And whereas for us two, we are both quite busy online coaches, and it is tough. And I think we've had some struggles, but I think we've really kind of tried to nip them in the bud like as soon as possible, which I'm very grateful for. But how do you feel? Like, how do you feel with like the relationship and both of us being coaches?
It definitely can be hard. Obviously, we're both very consumed by what we do, and we take pride in what we do, and it takes up a lot of our time, where there's not a lot of time left for like normal relationship things. And as much as we might spend a lot of time together, as in we might be in the same building, wherever we are, we don't necessarily have that time to just, I don't know, chill there and watch Netflix or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It was at times like it was important for us to set some sort of boundaries in terms of like, okay, this is the time we try to cut off work. But again, I think both of us doing the same job, we know how much it means to us, and there is some flexibility there as well. Like if I say, no, listen, I have to do this, or I have to take this call, and it might be a Saturday evening when we were meant to be doing something. As much as you might be getting annoyed, you understand that that's something I just need. It needs to be done. And if I don't do this, I won't even be present in terms of like mentally. I won't be in the room because I'll be completely, I'll be just constantly thinking of that thing I had to do. Do you know, that kind of way. So yeah, but on the other hand, like doing the same thing, and obviously having that support there, and the understanding is huge on the positive side of things. I think that was a big thing to, help us drive forward together.
Yeah.
And have that support there, and bouncing ideas off each other and everything else.
Yeah, I do think I know we actually talk about this every now and again, and I personally think it's like the best thing for us that the two of us have it, because we really do understand each other. And I think really only over the past year, if not even the past 6 months, was when we were like, right, there needs to be boundaries set here. We need to have this time maybe for each other, or not even that, to like stop talking about work. We are consumed, like everything we do. But that's the thing, neither of us would have it any other way. Yeah. And I couldn't imagine having someone trying to change that in me, like trying to be like, okay, maybe don't do that though, and let's go do this together and whatever. Like, and me being like, no, but I have to go do this. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, this is my life. But yeah, I do think that is the thing. And we work 24/7. I feel like we're always switched on. But yeah, I do think setting the boundaries was a huge thing for us, and to really help us obviously grow. But I couldn't imagine it any other way. I like feel like we're nearly like ladders to each other. Like, I help you grow, you help me grow, we bounce off each other. And personally, it is so nice having someone understand my hard days and having someone to talk to about it, because I know I'm not easy to deal with sometimes. And I know that obviously I can have like a really low day, but you completely understand, because 2 weeks ago you could have been having that low day. And I actually heard something before just on like relationships in general, and how it was kind of like, you need to even each other out. And I think we do in very, very strong points, where like your weaker points I might be strong at, my weak points you might be strong at. And I think there might be a day where, you're not feeling good and you might be at 20%, and I need to pull the weight there. And then there's days where I don't feel good, which is definitely a lot more frequent, and you need to pull the weight. Do you know what I mean? And I think we really do balance each other out amazingly there, because we understand each other so much. So yeah, I couldn't imagine any other way, but I know that there is struggles, definitely. Like, I'm not saying it's easy. We definitely, can roll our eyes at each other and to just be huffing and puffing sick of talking about work and certain things and, just things like that. Absolutely. But that comes with every relationship, I feel. But another thing, obviously, is that there is huge sacrifices that we have had to make in our relationship, but even in friendships. We talk about this every now and again, where it is that like moving abroad being one thing, but also being consumed by work means that there is a lot of sacrifices you have to make. And personally, I do find that is the relationships that I might have with my family or with my friends now, because one, they don't live in the world that I live in and understand it as much, but as well living abroad. So it is really nice having you there because you understand it so much and having that kind of tie of you literally being such a good friend, such a good coping mechanism, and my partner obviously at that. But yeah, a lot of sacrifices have been made with relationships, I feel, because of work. And because of being so consumed. I don't think people realise that, especially with friendships.
Yeah, I think, when it comes back to business side of things, like, and we've said the word consumed a few times, like, I think that's a big key to success as well. Do you know what I mean? Where this is what you do. There's no distractions. And when I say this, like, I did, we both did lose out on a lot of time with family, friends, and even our time together, to be able to give it back to grown. But again, it comes back in a sense like that's where we get a lot of kind of fulfillment out of it, and both of us understand that as well. But as you said, your friends might not understand it, your family might not understand it, so it is hard, and looking back, like, we want to make sure that it's worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah. And that is so true, because sometimes I'd be like to myself, if I have sacrificed all of this time with my friends, saying no to going out or to events, drinking, because obviously I need to be my sharpest, best self for clients and work. If I have really missed out on holidays, family things, occasions, obviously with living abroad as well, and watching my nieces grow, watching, family in general, like, evolve, I'm like, something has to be successful here. And I think that really drives me as well, because I'm like, if I have missed out on all of these things, it has to be for something. And that is obviously very important as well. Like, I just think no one actually realizes the sacrifices you make when you open or start to grow a business, because all of your time and energy goes into it, and it's very hard to try and split yourself in half, and to become a different person on the weekends or at occasions. You're literally constantly thinking about your phone and the text messages and the emails, or a check-in you forgot to do, or a call that you have in an hour. And yeah, it is quite tough because it all lands on your shoulders, I feel. And no one talks about that. No one talks about how mentally challenging it is to be, firstly work for yourself, but have no one else to be like, all right, okay, it's 5 p.m, so I'm going to clock out and here's what you need to do. Do you know what I mean? No, I'm still working. Do you know what I mean? 24/7. But yeah, I think that was a very good point, that like, it has to be for something. Make sure it's for something.
Yeah. Well, it just has to be made worth it, because at the end of the day, as much as we enjoy the freedom of traveling and whatnot, and maybe not necessarily having to be in Ireland, for, I don't know, maybe in the next couple of years, like, that's not end all be all. Do you know what I mean? Like, in what's going to happen in 10 years, 15 years from now on. And as much as we, like, I feel like we stay quite present and whatnot, and enjoy our time right now, it has to make sense in the long run as well, because we are giving up a lot as well at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what would be, right, one piece of advice you would give a client, as a coach, obviously, on their journey, obviously fat loss, or even if it's to gain anything at all? What would be the piece of advice that you would give a client starting off?
I think it is to set the goals, be realistic with your goals, first of all. Okay, look at where you are right now, and how long is it actually going to get you to where you want to be? And what do you want the process to look like? Because if you want to have a whole lot more flexibility in there, that time is going to be extended once again. So again, just being realistic with, what do you want, how much work you're actually willing to put in, and again, in a sense, like sacrifices that you are willing to make with like, are you willing to let go of going out every single weekend, and all of these different things that might hinder your progress. So I think being realistic and setting a good timeline in place is a base to kind of work off then of how you're going to set up everything else after that.
Yeah. I think a huge thing as well is like being realistic on that kind of note. Like I would say to any client starting off is that it's going to take time regardless of what you do. And I do think obviously setting that lifestyle effect is so important, because if you don't have a solid foundation, what's the point? If you are building a house upon sand, like it is going to crumble one day. So I think a huge thing is being realistic, having a routine set in place that you can genuinely do for life or for a long period of time, and making sure it's sustainable. But it's very important to know that it is not a sprint. Like you are not going into your marathon and running absolutely everything you possibly can and then having to give up and getting a stitch. Do you know what I mean? And I actually remember ages ago, I had like this post up and I was only watching it the other day, and I was talking about the egg and spoon race, and it is the perfect example for your journey. If you have your egg on your spoon and you get off the starting line and you run, that egg is going to it's going to fall and it's going to smash. And we all know this. Everyone knows this, and you need to obviously think about that with your fitness journey. If you start on that starting line and you run and you go hell for leather head first, you more than likely will either hate it or you will quit. And there will probably be hurdles then as well. Whereas if you start and you actually go slow and steady with that egg on the spoon, you will get to the end line and there will be no falls, there'll be no cracks, there'll be no hurdles. So yeah, I think that's a huge thing that I would always say to every client.
Yeah, absolutely. And I on the note of the hurdles, I think that's going to happen regardless in one form or another, whether that being, you getting sick, maybe something happening at work, being busier, or something going on at home, maybe fighting in your relationship or something like that. We all experience some form of struggle as you go along the process. So be prepared for those things. Like, it's going to get harder. Like, life is not smooth. Life isn't just gonna, create a clean 12 weeks for you to just focus on your training. Like, life doesn't go away. Be prepared for there to be in some harder times as well in between those good weeks as well. And just make sure you show up for yourself on those hard weeks as well.
Yeah, I think a huge thing, even as you're saying there is going to be struggles, and like we're all only human. And I feel like people look at online coaches and people online and me or you and think we're like mechanical robots that have never had struggles or have never been sick or have never maybe lost our jobs or had issues financially or had issues with family in our relationship. Like, oh no, like we have had a lot of struggles, but the fact that we show up for ourselves consistently prevails all. And I think people genuinely forget that because you don't see the struggles. But I'm literally, and you're literally here to be role models in the fact that we struggle all of the time, but we stand up, we show up, we do the hard things regardless. And that is going to prevail all because, we are all human. Everyone struggles. Your next door neighbor, your family, your friends, your partner. There is going to be struggles regardless, but you need to be consistent. You need to choose to continue. 100%.
100%. And it's just having a standard for yourself. Like, who do you want? Like, are you going to be someone that, gives into these things, or are you going to be someone that shows up regardless of what the situation is, with the kind of non-negotiables that you might have, whether that being something as simple as your steps or your calories for the day or your meals for the day, or your training for the week. Do you know what I mean? All these simple things that should be done.
Yeah. We're actually going to play a little game. Okay, so I actually have to go and get the notebook, so give me a second. Okay, so just to finish us off, we're going to play a little game just to make it a little bit fun. And these are obviously questions that I found online. And what we're going to do is I'll ask the question, we'll write down like what we think. It's kind of like Mr. and Mrs. And then from there, we'll show the answers. Is that all good with you?
Yeah.
Okay, so question 1. What is each other's favourite colour? I'm always scared of this one.
This is not working.
On the count of 3. Okay, let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Black.
Beige. Pink.
Pick one.
Pink.
Ah!
Beige.
Pick the other. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say beige. To be honest, I don't actually have a favourite colour. I feel like I like them all, but
Setting
we'll
you
go
up
for
for
beige.
failure here.
But yeah, like not pink.
Okay.
Not pink. Anyway, okay, so question number 2. Who said I love you first? You ready?
Yeah.
Ben. Yes. He was drunk and I told him that doesn't count and no, actually, we just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
You were drunk. I just did not mention it because I was like, absolutely not. I'm not taking that. And then it came back around and you were sober.
Yep.
Yeah. Just wanted to put that out there so everyone knew. Thank you very much. Okay. Question number 3. What's each other's pet peeve? What's each other's pet peeve? What's something that wrecks my head?
This could be about anything.
Yeah. Don't embarrass me.
We only talked about this the other day, so
Okay. So
can't be wrong.
for you,
Yep.
I said shite driving because honestly,
Yep.
whenever we are in the car or on the motorbike, I actually feel like you are going to upend someone and just, cause a ruckus. So I feel like shite driving is a huge one for you because you just get so frustrated whenever you're on the road.
Yeah, no, I'm not a patient driver.
No.
Safe to say. People saying how many weeks on a transformation? It's true.
It is true. Do you know when people put up transformations like, oh my God, look at my client in just 8 weeks or 10 weeks? I'm like, stop doing that. It's so toxic. I just feel like it's so toxic. People have expectations then of how long their transformation needs to take. It really annoys me. It wouldn't be my biggest pet peeve, but it definitely is a peeve of mine in the industry for sure. Okay. Number 4. What's one word you would use to describe one another? Let's say in our relationship, do you know what I mean?
No.
Okay, let's just say to describe one another. Okay, so for you, I would say protective, which is like a good and a bad thing because, sometimes you can be like overly protective and it's like a bad thing, and then sometimes it's like a proper like safety thing, and I do love it. I think I love it more than anything else. But yeah, you're very protective over me and over like a lot of other things, like everything. So yeah.
I said kind
That's so
because
boring.
as much
Because you couldn't think of anything else.
no, because as much as I might be not a narky person sometimes, but I might not be as kind of a person. I think you make up for that for both of us.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is I talk too much and you talk too little.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay, number 5. Number 5, who is the funniest? I would say me. And if yours doesn't say me, Rachel.
I'm only saying it because it's your podcast.
No, you're not. You're saying it because I say the funniest things and then 2 days later you say the thing I just said. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I'm the funniest. And like I kind of set the tone for the jokes. Anyway, okay, so last one. Who works the hardest in the gym? I said me again over here.
Mate, I'm the number one.
So when I do be spotting you and I'm like, oh my God, unreal. You could have done one more rep though. And you're like, oh, I just didn't want to overdo it.
No.
Just didn't want to hurt my knees. Didn't want to hurt my hips, you know?
No.
So I do feel like I take it to the next limit and you'd be looking at me going, God, wish I could be her. You'd be looking at me being like, who? That's my girl.
Yeah.
You know?
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
Okay. So thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that you would like to add or round up on?
No, thank you very much for having me. Very proud of you doing this.
Thank you. That was very nice of you. Obviously we are now coming into season 2. I would love to have more of these types of podcasts, but as always, your feedback is so welcomed. Thank you so much for tuning in and for getting this far, of course. I am forever grateful to you all. And if you ever have any questions or want to chat about anything on any of the episodes, please always let me know. My ears are always open. And please always remember, if there are days that you are feeling doubtful or just simply don't believe in yourself, I am over here rooting for you and I'm over here believing in you.